Say hello, Dylan. Say hello to the bad guy.
Ooh, okay. Elon Musk.
That's right, it is, ladies
Oh
and gentlemen.
yeah,
Today
we're reviewing Elon Musk.
we're doing the rest of the review of society's biggest heel, the San Francisco flatface himself. That's right. Everyone's favorite. I'm a popular kid. I'll just be like how the other bad boys in the schoolyard behave. Oh no, I don't know how to do it with charm. I just seem weird.
There's some stuff about Scotland Hall. That's what I call him now because I'm funny. There's some stuff about Scott Hall that certainly I didn't know that I learned by looking up some of his horse shit fucking bullshit that he did.
Was the first thing something where you're like, I gotta tell you, I thought that would be something Kevin Nash did in his past.
No, he fucking killed a guy.
Yeah, I thought that would be a Kevin Nash thing. I got to tell you, this is
Really?
if I had to rate the clique in terms of who has killed a man. Here's how it goes: Sean Waltman just forgot, full on just did. I did so much meth, and I just woke up covered in blood. I thought it was sauce. I was eating it. Turned out it was blood. Number two, Kevin Nash. And he was just like, that man's wife wanted to have sex with me. Number three, Shawn Michaels. Pre Jesus, it was because that person had cocaine and would not give me the cocaine. Post Jesus is because that man made eye contact with me, and that means I could be a homosexual, and I will not be a homosexual, so I killed him.
So this is very interesting. Is that your thoughts about Shawn Michaels are completely opposite to mine? Because I would think Shawn Michaels would literally like stick a bat in his own ass to make it to then just tell the cops that guy raped him and then get the guy sent away for a long time as a rapist or like
I,
plant child porn on him or something. Like
I agree that Shawn Michaels is capable of doing all of these things. Here's what I'm saying: is
I just
Shawn
don't think
Michaels?
he could murder.
I think he's a panicky Pete, and he would like panicky murder. Like I don't think you know what I mean.
Ooh.
Like it wouldn't be a crime of passion; it would be a crime of like anxiety. You know what I mean? Ah, where are the tarps? He would yell.
Oh no! Now I gotta do all this. Imagine all the admin you'd have to do after murdering someone.
So
You
much additional
cancel
admin.
your whole night plans.
I do you know anyone who's ever killed anybody?
Um, I think I did stand up with a guy who killed somebody.
I wonder if I've done stand up with somebody who's killed somebody.
For sure, you have.
Is it the same guy?
No. This guy's name was Mike Ross. That wasn't his real name.
I gotta tell you, Dylan, we just discovered
His
a new talent of
closer
yours.
was his closer was the first
No.
time I saw a body burn, it curled up into a ball. A little late for an attack stance now, motherfucker. That was
Oh
the
my,
closer.
this guy sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, he was filmed once, and then some guy was like trying to film him like with an early version of a flip phone, and then he just put the mic in the stand and then just slapped the fucking phone out of the guy's hand and looked him in the eyes, and that guy didn't even look for his phone until the show was over. It was like he was a scary man. One time, some guy was doing Jew jokes, and he came on stage, and he was like, everyone makes Jew jokes about New York Jews. That's what they think Jews are. Nebbishy New York Jews. He's looking right at the guy who did the Jew jokes. They don't talk about Russian Jews because we'll make your dog, your wife, and your fucking family a memory. And then that was his opener, and the rest of his set was talking about how the bar was failing. So here's how they should burn it down for insurance money.
I totally remember these stories, and I can't play this guy, and I'm excited for this episode to end so we can talk about who it was. But until then, let's talk
No, it
about
was Mike Ross. That was his name. His name was Mike Ross, but that wasn't his real name. He was doing protection or something.
And
Like, this is not like a. I'm not hiding any information. This is all the information I have.
I assume
And
he was in that classic time of Toronto comedy me moving to Montreal, 2007, 2008, where it's like, let's go ruin this coffee shop's business by talking about our.
oh yeah. Well, he was like one time I came into the Living Well, which was like a really bad open mic at that time, and
course, I
everyone was on
remember
the
the Living
patio,
Well.
and even this guy Darren Rose is smoking. He's got a million credits. He hosts everything on television. I was like, why is Darren Rose? I've never seen Darren Rose smoke. And in my stupid head, I was like, must be a fucking party. And I'm like on stage. I'm like, fuck, there's a fucking party at the patio. Let's go. And then I'm like, fucking, let's get hammered at the Living Well. I look on stage. Mike's on stage. I go, hey, Mike. He's like, what's up, Dylan? He says hi. I was like, all right. I go on the patio. Why the fuck is everyone out here, guys? Let's smoke. Let's go. And they're like, oh, Mike's got a knife out and he's threatening an audience member. And I was like, oh, that was what was in his hand. And then I walked back in and I was like, Mike, what are we doing over here? But I mean, I didn't care. As silly as it sounds, I was like, Mike likes me.
I'm completely with you. I have a couple of these people. I've had a couple of people like this in my life where it's like, oh, that guy's definitely buried a body. Let me tell you whose body he's not burying. Me, because he considers me a friend.
Yeah, it is really the ultimate, like, you're just human survival instinct. We're like, oh, he's not mad at me? All right. What's he mad about? Actually, don't answer that, because it could be morally wrong, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to be involved in what he's mad about, because it's definitely, let's put it this way, he's not in the right.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I got a meth head got in my face at the corner of Yonge and Bloor yesterday.
Mhm.
I'm recording this in Toronto, and the one thing I want to say that was really funny about it was he clearly was super on drugs and aggressive, but in his spirit was not a fighter. Because I could tell he really wanted to fight me with his weird battery charger that he was holding, but he kept being like, "I'm gonna tell people you're a stalker," and I was like, "All right, man, I'll see you soon." And he was like, "I'm gonna fucking let them know," and I was like, "This guy really wants to attack me, but." His spirit is too good to attack, and the meth is trying to make him want. It was a very fascinating situation. I thought about it a lot while I walked up Young Street.
He's. I
Longest
mean, yeah,
street in
there's
the
a
world.
lot of those like just schizophrenic, which is sick. Anyway, we're gonna talk about American
Hall.
Starship Coyote.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about the soldier himself, Scott Hall. Let me ask you this, Dylan. When you're at a Florida strip club, do you think this guy's going to get shot? Because that's what Scott Hall thought one Friday night, and then he lied about it for the rest of his life and got off claiming it was self-defense. Why do you think he drank? That's actually not true. It was a horrific accident. The gun went off like
This is why people. This is why. Let's get fucking political. This is why, at least, I don't believe in guns. This is like, but if Scott Hall, someone told him to get a gun. He did get the gun. He killed a guy, and then basically Kevin Nash and everyone else theorizes this is the what do you call that? This is the origin point for his entire me drinky snorty too much time.
Of course. Like, of course.
Not me. I'd be fucking flexing over the body. Let's go. 1-0. I'd be yelling, write it down.
Yeah, you would be 1-0. Yeah, I remember Dylan actually. He hit a pedestrian with his car, and I was in the car, and he got out, and he was just like he counted. He got down 1, 2, 3. The replica Intercontinental title belt out of his trunk, put it on.
Fuck
Announce
you.
me, John. Announce me. It's a horrific.
Oh, he's going
story.
up to. Oh my God, is he checking if that guy's okay? He appears to be yelling "fuck you" at him.
Yeah,
Fuck
he's giving
you.
He's down on all fours and he's shaking his head in a reminiscent manner of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He's doing push-ups next to the unconscious body, like Stone Cold when he was a heel.
Oh my God!
Fucking
yeah.
motherfucker.
What?
That would have been sick. But yes, no. Murder's
I
bad.
ran into the innovator of that chant yesterday, by the way.
Oh, my favorite thing is when people claim they made up wrestling things.
We have two of them in our life. We have a guy who claims he
Brendan
invented
Burns.
the what chant, and Brendan Burns is in our life, and he claims that he invented the Fandango dance chant. What's amazing about the Fandango dance chant is that one went from I did not invent it, but they're doing me, to I did invent it, which is my favorite leap in logic I've ever heard in my entire life. That's not me. That is just in praise of me. That was me.
I'll believe it if someone's like, Mantar. That was me.
I'll believe it if someone was like, hey, remember that second Kane? That was the John Boy.
Katie Vick? It was my idea to have a real dead chick. They didn't like that.
Remember Aldo Montoya, the Portuguese man of war? My idea was that he was killed in the ring.
I like the idea that just being married into a Portuguese family and Vince McMahon wanting a Portuguese star, and then that's what he came up with, and not just a guy. Like, literally, you could have had, like, Relaxed Man, where he just comes out on a table. Like, people carry him on a table, and he has an espresso, and the people carrying him get very upset that he's, like, moving the espresso too much, so he has to go back to the back and get a new espresso because you've disrupted the crema. Like, he could have been, like, the world's greatest heel. All his promos are just staring at Sonny, just staring. He would only feud with like people with valets because he would just fucking stare at them. And then the horrible thing was sometimes it would just work. Yeah, he stared at me good, and now we're together.
Yeah, let me ask, bro,
suck my fucking dick, bro.
Bro,
he was the forerunner to the Attitude Era. You fucking suck my dick. That makes me not gay. That's just because I fucking won, dog.
I don't know how to say this, but I lived in a Portuguese neighborhood in Toronto for 3 years.
You just did say it, so congrats.
And most of the businesses, if I had to describe them, were what did they sell here? Because it just seems to be a man in sweatpants smoking in front of an empty, burned out shell that he
Oh yeah.
either owns or is paying rent on for some inexplicable reason.
Portuguese people support their own to the point where it's like you just don't even need a good looking storefront because it's like, yeah, it says Lisbon on it.
Yeah, they'll be
So
here.
it's just people know that they're gonna
We
come.
sell, we
There's
sell
there's
scars.
legit travel agencies, multiple, still open on College Street in Toronto, just because it's in a Portuguese neighborhood, and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go.
I know.
Why
I'm
would I?
completely aware.
I will
I'll
walk
have you
on foot to this person who will walk me through flights that they Google, which I could have done at home.
Dylan, here's my question. When's the last time you used a travel agent? Here's my answer.
Never.
2015. I tried it one time. I had never
You
used one.
did?
And I walked down the street from my house in London, walked into a travel agent, and was like, book me a flight to Canada. I just want to see what this is like.
That's really fun. Was it good?
It was cheaper, yeah. They got me a like
It
a
was
like
cheaper.
they got me a rate on Air Transat. Like they saved me like $100.
Fuck. I think I've just been sold on having a travel agent. Anyway, do you know this? American
I knew
Starship
you would.
Coyote killed a guy.
He certainly did. And then nothing
He was
else
born
happened.
into a military family. His dad loved killing people. That's not true. But
Yeah,
he began
dad
his
was not pleased that his
in
son was
championship wrestling from
shirtless around so many
Florida.
other men.
And here's my favorite thing about the 80s is what you've been wrestling for 14 seconds. What's your first match?
We better put you in the ring with a Wolverine and Larry the Axe Hennig, who's on a bunch of barbiturates and X-Lax.
Literally just immediately started wrestling Dusty Rhodes.
Hilarious. It's so funny. Jim Cornette's memory of the territories has colored everyone's interpretation of the territories, but so
Oh,
often
that it was like this brilliant, well thought out thing and not like this guy's jacked, let the fat guy pin him.
yeah, like so much it seems like it would be similar to your stories of Mike Ross. Just like, why is the entire roster in the ring? One guy's got his dick out and that dick is holding a knife. And they're like, oh, I guess he's a heel now.
He would be the champ, except he called it for pussies. Like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. We don't have a
Maybe if they
championship
change it to
belt anymore
championship
because-
shoes, I'll accept it. But until then, I ain't wearing no fucking belt. My dick
That-
keeps my pants up, motherfucker.
That belt's got gold on it. I am not my wife, you fuck.
Yeah, exactly. It's very garish, actually. I'm an Englishman. If that's a leather belt with leather on top and maybe just some nice bacon in the middle of it, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have any? Is there any raw meat you could spread on my body? Because I like to attract animals towards me so I can pin them.
Undefeated in animal fights.
That's right. I'm undefeated in animal fights. I'm undefeated in bus stop arguments with people when we do it in our head.
I think Scotland Hall is actually a very important because he got to learn how to wrestle in the AWA under Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne in the late episodes of the AWA, very good. Here's what he tried to do with Scott Hall. He tried to just be like, go act like Hulk Hogan.
It's a really interesting thing in that
You
this
can
is
see him
basically
Sorry.
it put the seeds for WCW being in late term AWA because it's like this will all fall apart. No one is with you. Eric Bischoff will kind of try and make stuff happen, but like if you look at it, like here's where he's known Eric Bischoff from is late
Yeah.
stage AWA. How he behaves is so like counterintuitive. It's us versus the office. Fuck them. We will get what we want, which is probably how you have to behave with Vern Gagne because he's like, yeah, just to let you know, I stole your mom's bank account and changed the PIN code.
But
You
this
did
is
not
why
sell for Nick Bockwinkel.
wrestling in the 90s, one of the strong points of it is that exactly what you said. Him and Bischoff are there 10 years ago. If this happens now, they have to like constantly reference their time together or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like they'd be like allusions to how long they've known each other on commentary where it's like,
Yeah, like-
nope, every time you go to a new company, you're in a new world completely. Like I like that.
And also, like, if you mentioned the AWA during WCW, people have been like, "What are you talking? What? No,
Yeah,
wrestling
9 guys
started-
would know what you're talking about.
Wrestling started when Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik. Like that was the absolute understanding. And like Scott Hall was a interloper to many of us, to me, because I was like, "Who's this guy? Why isn't he Tito Santana? I want Rick the Modern Motel."
Well, the only thing we knew about, I mean, at least me watching it as a nascent wrestling fan, was like, Sting is cool. Oh, aren't the Steiners from WWF?
Michigan. They're from Michigan.
They're from Michigan. And Ric Flair, I guess, is a legend because they keep telling me that.
Yeah, like Ric Flair, I've been told. I don't know what a real world's champion is, but it's Bobby Heenan likes him, and I like
And
that.
that's like an important part of wrestling is that like this guy's a champion now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wh-
You
What
have to have a
what
backstory now because everyone's a nerd, but like back then you could just be like, he's a fucking champion of Arkansas. Fuck it.
what's kind of weird is wrestling now has like wrestling has always had what like social media is giving to stand up comedy and to show business in general, which is if you're just like I'm the champ, bro. People, if you say it enough times, people will be like, I hear this guy's the champ. You know what I'm saying?
Although it is like the thing that I guess Scott Hall didn't really benefit from this, but certainly I've heard Luger did, which was you just see a bunch of pictures of them in magazines and your anticipation for what they could be would go nuts. Like Pro Wrestling Illustrated did a lot for ECW just because it was like in your mind it was like there would be the here are the champions in the wrestling organizations, and they would make up Bill Apter would make up a top 10, and then they added ECW as number 3. And I remember before Mankind came to WWF, there was an article in Pro Wrestling Illustrated that was like, yeah, he
There
did the
was.
mandible claw on me. To a bunch of ECW wrestlers said he didn't credit one wrestler. He just said a bunch of ECW wrestlers said he did the mandible claw on me. It's not a good move. It doesn't hurt. It's
I
not
don't
real
remember.
like it was in ECW.
That's fucking crazy. I do remember, but
Yeah.
like you're so right. And I think Scott Hall weirdly benefited because Scott Hall looked so different than what we were used to wrestlers looking like. Like Scott Hall looked like the guy that fucks your mom once your dad moves to an apartment. And in the early 90s, that is the perfect heel for kids because they're like, holy shit, it's Ron. I don't want to get out of your chair, Ron. Fuck you, Ron. You know what I
I've
mean?
never seen a guy with a mustache. Like they also tried the whole Magnum PI. That's another undersold thing is
Oh my
that
God.
they
The
don't see in
amount.
wrestling now is just fucking. And Scott
Tom-
Hall's whole career is just, hey, I saw this thing on TV. I'm going to do that now.
I'm so angry because we would have had Daenerys Targaryen, the male wrestler. Do you understand when Vince
Oh yeah.
we are really missing out on Vince McMahon's horrific,
Can you
horrible
imagine
crimes
if
that
he
been
had seen
exposed
Game of
before he
Thrones? Can
saw
you
Game of
imagine?
Thrones? He would have made Stephanie and Shane kiss on television. He would have
made
held.
fuck. No, he would have full pen. The Raw's opening would have been Shane's
You're telling
penis
me they would have
going
had
into
to.
Stephanie's vagina.
You're telling me he would have made them go to Penn Station. They wouldn't be able to get on the train at Grand Central.
He would have just fucking. What was it? No, who are actual? Oh yeah, no, he would have made the Usos enter each other.
Yeah, he would have made the Uzos backflip into each other's assholes.
But like, this is the thing where what the fuck were we talking about? I'm tired.
Scott Hall.
Scotland Hall. No, all right.
Scotland.
Well, anyway, with a mustache, they wanted him to look like Magnum PI. He did not. He just kind of looked like a nice man. He looked so. I've never seen a guy that big look that unintimidating
That's the
than
thing
when
that-
he had
well,
that mustache.
Because he just looks like, hey, I'm a nice woodsman who wants to smell your underwear. Like it's just a very
Yeah.
odd look.
Sure.
Yeah. I wouldn't
He looks
say
like a fitness.
masticate.
Yeah, he looks like a guy who fixes stuff online, and then when anybody in the comments like, "Yo, you're hot," he's like, "My wife certainly thinks so. Thanks for the subscription."
I'd say he looks like a new dad that really lectures you about the importance of family while cheating on his wife. That's what he looks like. Let me tell. I love my. If it wasn't for my wife and my kids, I don't know what I'd be like. Who's
Everybody
this? This is
fucking
Christian.
cheats.
Not everyone, Dylan. Just
Be realistic. Be realistic, okay? That's the new.
I'm
Be
literally.
real- it's monogamy is made. That's the other thing is like you just do something wrong with it. You just talk about how monogamy is antiquated. Monogamy is antiquated.
I should not talk about this. There was another comedian and I, that he has lectured us and talked to us about the importance
Mike
of family.
Ross,
It is not Mike Ross. It's Mike Ross's brother,
Steve Ross.
Rice Michaels. No, it's this other
There's
comedian.
also a guy named Steve Ross who had a coke problem. He was great. He would do your whole act. He would do his whole act to you. Continue.
I don't remember.
It was
No.
before your time.
I remember the IT guy who was on Wednesdays at Yuck Yucks for 15 years. That guy was fucking nuts.
Stu Ross.
Was that Stu Ross?
Stu Ross was and in retrospect, he's one of the things where I'm like, I was so fucking mean to that guy for no reason, just because he was on Wednesdays for 900 years. Wednesdays is the Pro-Am night at Yuck Yucks, and they would put you on the Pro-Am before you get signed to Yuck Yucks, which means nothing.
Yeah, it just means you get to just do Wednesdays a lot.
Yeah, it's just their way to like weirdly exert power over you when they have none. But anyway, certainly not the Stu Rost of fucking
Wild. I'd forgotten
wrestling.
about that guy. I love being back in Toronto. There's just a whole cache of memories. I forgot. Oh my god, that guy's not dead.
It's
Let me
yeah,
tell-
you need someone to talk to you to trigger all these old memories, right? Which is,
Let me-
I guess, the whole point of shoot interviews. But
and let me
not
tell you
really.
who is dead. Scott Hall. Now Scott Hall does the AWA shenanigans. Heads on over to early '90s WCW. He's the Diamond Stud. He's the Cigarette Kid. He's Billy No Shirt.
The Cigarette Kid is a great name.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. It's what's so interesting is it weirdly is laying the seed. Like if Scott Hall's life was the movie Walk the Line, it has so many perfect like, and who are you? I'm Eric Bischoff. I might work for, and then looks to the camera, WCW. You know what I mean? Like every moment is like so perfectly lined up. Like he meets Kevin Nash. Well, Kevin Nash is trying to be a jolly green giant with a weird wizard mask. Like it's just insane.
Well, him and Kevin Nash team for a short time as Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud. He teams with Kurt Hennig in AWA. They become
yeah.
very, very good friends.
Yeah, their
Very
tag team
important
name was, by
because-
the way, called.
Yes.
No, she was dead when we got here. That's what the tag team was called.
It was the good guys who do fun pranks like
Yeah,
hitting
it's the good
people
guys
with,
with bad memories. That's what they are, and they don't forget. They just you don't want to talk to them about their memories.
But this is very important because, as everyone knows, if you're listening to this, of course, Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall are doing the Scarface impression back and forth, and that leads to Razor Ramon.
Yes, very interesting. They wanted Scott Hall to be a soldier in WWE, and by they I mean Vince McMahon wanted him to be Soldier Scott Hall. You'll
That's
the ground.
crazy. Knowing what we know about Scott Hall, about like how he's like permanently high, probably because of his horrible dalliance with death. That would have been a real laid back soldier. I mean, laid back soldier is not a bad thing. I'm gonna get up at I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna get up at 1000.
Yeah, I'll see you guys at around
back.
1100, 1130. I don't know military.
Yeah, giving
time.
military time. I'll see you guys at 0100.
I'll see you guys
Sorry,
at-
wait,
oh, wait.
1300.
I'm gonna start drinking around 0900. Oh, 1800? I don't know.
I'm gonna be up drinking till about 0600, and then I'll get up around 1400.
Alpha Tango, I'm gonna need a whiskey. Yeah, but basically he heads into and he joins the WWF at exactly the right time because basically he comes in as he's like, it's
Everyone's
the weirdest.
fucking leaving.
It's everyone's fucking leaving, and he's introduced as the heel, and the energy to Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan when he's the heel is kind of like, and then there's this fucking guy. I guess I don't know who the fucking bad guys are. Like it's
He is
just like,
great. He is great. Fucking what do you call it? He has great.
promos. Oh my god, just an open
No, I was gonna
shirt.
say vignettes, but yeah.
Yeah, just open shirt, talking a lot about how he's going to fight Giant Gonzalez. That's how I remember. I remember him being introduced, and it was Giant Gonzalez versus Razor Ramon, and they were plugging it for like a house show, and I was like, I gotta see this match. One of these guys is so much taller than the other guy.
His first feuds with Randy Savage, that tells you everything you need to know. Where they're like, okay, immediately, this Randy Savage is on the way out as far as wrestling goes in Vince McMahon's eyes. So we're gonna get all the heat on made up, and obviously everyone knows the story too.
Well, part of that is also is Henning is also very much in that main event because Razor Ramon is brought in to be Ric Flair's heavy kind of thing, and Mr. Perfect is Ric Flair's executive consultant because he's doing that Lloyd's of London scam where he has life insurance and he doesn't have to wrestle. And then as soon as they stop paying it out, suddenly his neck is better and he can wrestle.
Yes, yeah,
Like
brilliant.
absolute, like top notch carnival scumbaggery there, Kurt Hennig. Anyone who's that into hunting is really okay with credit card fraud. That's something I've learned.
Dude, we're not gonna make the insurance company out to be the villain here. Or
I'm
sorry,
not-
the good guy.
I'm not making them the good
for
guy.
him.
I'm not good for him, but I stand by what I say. If you've hunted more than 5 times in your life, you're totally okay committing credit card or insurance fraud. Correct me if I'm wrong. Dylan, any holes in that theory?
I don't know. Oh no, my grandfather used to hunt, and no.
Do you think
not
he's
do any
ca-
fraud?
I think he's, but do you think he's capable of it? Is this the
Absolutely
man
not.
Is this the man that right before he died said, "Give me a cigarette," smoked 2 cigarettes in a hospital, and died? The greatest
Yes.
man. That man. I think about
The
that.
man was
that-
like, "I'm gonna die," and then he just found cigarettes somehow. I think one of the orderlies was like, "Fuck, you are gonna die," and then he just was like, "Give me a cigarette."
I got news for you. You want to know how John Hastings is dying? I'm gonna look at the orderly and go, I'm going out like Dylan's grandfather, and they're gonna be like, "Sir, you're in the year 80, and Dylan is long dead." It's weird that I know
No,
who that
Dylan's
is, by
still
the way.
alive and he's
No,
doing the
Dylan's not.
surgery.
No, Dylan's long
Dylan
dead.
learned. No, Dylan. No, I won't.
But
Dylan's
what's gonna
actually
happen is
learned to be a doctor in his 90s.
one day Dylan will finally just find joy. A smile will go over his face. His heart will explode, and he'll shit his pants, but in front of an enemy. This is for you, Mike Ross.
That's the good with the crazy thing in like whatever. Let's say 2030 when you die is you'll be like, I vaped for years. Give me a vape.
I mean,
It sounds so much less than give me a
I have a
cigarette. Give
question.
me a
Do you-
vape.
I have a question.
Purple,
Do you thi-
pink, peach,
do you think-
mango.
Ugh, watermelon
Sorry.
and citrus.
Lit trick. Dead.
I remember being at a house party and finding out that the house party had a room for people to do vape tricks, and I called everyone there a loser, and it was amazing because they, many ways could not disagree. Like they were like, "No," and I'm like, "No, that's stupid. That's really bad, and you guys are losers. You're all in your 30s," and they were like, "But," and I was like, "You're losers. You guys are involved in loser things."
I don't know, man. If I just blew a big fucking vape cloud and then I took my pants off and sucked it into my asshole and then pissed it out, that'd be pretty fucking.
Yeah, but were they doing that kind of cool shit? Were they kind of doing that?
Ah, fuck!
Sometimes it's pee, sometimes it's actual pee, sometimes it's
Yeah.
actual pee.
Check out this vape trick. I exhale, then I inhale it back in, and I hold my breath, and then I just fucking nut.
Pretty good. That's a
You
good
would've
episode of
watched
this
me nut.
program.
That counts as
Um,
harassment.
Scott Hall's introduction to the WWF. What a segue back.
Sure.
Very much leads to one of my favorite Survivor Series.
We gotta talk about the
matches.
Diamond Stud. He was the Diamond Stud for a bit.
We're not
and it was,
talking
like,
about the Diamond Stud. We are not
halfway
talking
to
about it.
Razor Ramon.
We are
No,
not
it's very
talking about
important
it.
for later
No,
when
no.
they sue him. The WWF does.
Fine.
That's
talk
it.
about-
That's all I wanted to say. Continue your talking.
No. Now I'm out of focus. Now I've lost focus.
Oh wow. Scott Hall comes in, and really they push him towards the main event pretty
So
immediately.
quickly. One of his biggest high-profile matches is him and Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect. And now, will Mr. Perfect actually be Macho Man Randy Savage's tag team partner after the Ultimate Warrior either held him up for money after SummerSlam, or was just like, or his dad died and he just didn't show up for a while? Either way, awesome match. It's so fucking good. Mr. turns face. He does the fisherman suplex a bunch of times. He has a towel. He walks back and forth through the ring. It's awesome.
This is an interesting thing, I think, though, is that this is one of the many times in WWF where they lose Hogan, they lose Warrior, and they're kind of left with the fact that they never really treated Mr. Perfect, or really, Randy Savage is a huge star, but like they always have him job out.
Yeah, it's how do I say this?
Like, this is Randy Savage post the fucking... He lands 900 elbow drops on the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior kicks out of all of them and then does his finisher, and Randy Savage is dead now.
Yeah. It's basically like the Ultimate Warrior was Friends, Hulk Hogan was Seinfeld, Macho Man Randy Savage was News Radio. Still good, a lot of problems internally, and
And he's dead.
dead, and has more of a legacy now, but I agree. Was it like... Because again, it's in that thing of the post-Hogan time, Macho Man Randy Savage is kind of portrayed like this elder statesman who kind of shows up, stuff like that. He's on commentary a lot, and it kind of works. Do you know what I mean? Like it makes sense from how he was positioned.
Well,
Of
it's
like-
also he gets off the juice, and he just looks different because he gets off juice and loses confidence in his physique, so he's wearing like a onesie like the women
Well,
do
this
in
is the-
Saudi Arabia
This
now.
is the weird thing, is that's the look that I always recognize him with. I always thought that made him look cooler, is he had like that
It stood out,
Flash-
yeah.
that Flash T-shirt with the trunks. I was like, oh fucking, and it also made sense because he was the older. Like I always thought it was like, oh, he's like the older reverent guy. You know what I mean? Like I was a kid, I was like, oh, he's like Raiden in Mortal Kombat. He's teaching them the ways.
And also, yeah, I think the frills added a lot. Personally, I like the frills.
Certainly, Dylan, you and I are both garish dressers. We like to
We
to
love
dress.
the frills.
Of course, we want the ladies and the gents to have a feast for the eyes when they see us walking down the boulevard.
But the most important thing about Scott Hall, weirdly, is like obviously the character's dope. He has the fall away slam, and he has the Razor's Edge, which is one of the greatest finishing moves ever.
I really disagree. I've never enjoyed
Really?
it. I think it sucks. It's so awkward, and
I
there's so
love
many
it.
stages to it, and there's so many like.
That's
and
why it's a great finishing move, though. It's like I think it's like what the One Wing Angel is going for, but doesn't quite achieve, which is it's got so many stages to it, so there's so many different ways to tease it. And also, if you want to, you can totally cheat it, and he can just grab the guy from
Completely.
behind and do it.
But what I'm saying is the difference is the One Wing Angel at the end looks like it fucked the guy up a bit. At the end, the Resurrection is like he just put that guy down. Like it's kind of like, oh,
That's not true. People would always take the bump. Can you imagine if Scott Hall Razors as someone in 2022 in his prime? Everyone would be taking that bump on the back of their neck and rolling over. There's like there's an amazing. I think the best squash match of all time is this is on YouTube. You can look it up. In WCW, Scott Hall versus Super Calo, and Super Calo takes the Razor's Edge on his shoulders and his neck and folds himself over so that he's like his shoulders are pinned, but also his feet are like behind his head, and Scott Hall just sits on his butt and poses and looks at the camera. It's like the reason why I think that's the best squash match is it isn't just he pins him with 1 foot or something. He
Can I ask
pins
you a
him
question?
disrespectfully in character. Continue, yeah.
There's a reason you watch that match is because it ends with with Ray Trailer, aka the Big Boss Man, attacking Scott Hall.
I mean, I just watch squash matches, man. I love squash matches.
I mean, you have gotten me.
I like entrances. I like finishers.
You've gotten me into AEW Dark.
I
I don't
don't
even
really
know who
need-
these wrestlers are, and I, by the way, don't watch a lot of the matches. I mostly just like the commentators because they run out of something to say for every single job guy. They're like, "Oh, and this guy, I don't know. I know his dad. He sucks. Fuck him." Like, I don't. It's so
It is
good.
like you know what I don't like about AEW Dark is that everyone always used to like talk about how bad Taz was on commentary on SmackDown, and all AEW Dark is them doing. It's like the classic bad commentary. It's basically a podcast while wrestling is happening. Like it's a,
Yeah.
if 2 people were in the ring right now and we were just like talking about open mics.
Well, let me
that's
say this.
AEW Dark.
I have
occasionally.
met Taz for exactly 35 seconds, and let me
Ooh.
summate the problem with that guy's personality. Taz takes himself so seriously. There's footage on the trailer for a Colt Cabana John Hastings dude comedy and commentary to Bad Wrestling,
Mhm.
where Taz is trying to joke around of like, oh, this guy's making fun of me. I don't like it. In the moment, I could see in his eyes, he was the closest I've ever seen everyone to being like, I am to be respected. I am a very important little boy. And when you listen to Dark, it's like listening to a man talking and then another guy going like, let me tell you why I should have this job because I'm super tough and cool and my penis is nice. Like it's like,
Really, it's
Taz.
the exact opposite to me. It's just always Taz like making weird jokes. Who's this guy? He's the ROH Pure Champion. Oh, but anyway, here's a weird story about New
Yeah,
Jack.
I had a
Alright.
pure piss yesterday.
Scotland
I also
Hall.
hate
We're
all-
in the year of our Lord 1994 now. Scott Hall does, I think, a cardinal sin, which is he doesn't invent, but he is a cool heel. And the problem with that is he turns himself babyface. The other problem with that is here are the people ahead of him as far as a babyface. You got a newly minted Bret Hart. You
Yeah.
have Shawn Michaels is about to turn face, and of course his buddy Kevin Nash. All 3 of these guys are ahead of him as babyface. He becomes the IC champ, and he kind of stalls out as the IC champ. Now we get
Wait,
some.
no, not only
really-
that. I disagree. I don't think it's a stall out. I think that he shows the world and sets the tone for what the internet wrestling community thinks the IC champion should be. Is it's another
Okay.
exciting, like it's like you're 80% excited for the IC championship match, 100% excited for the world championship match. Garlic bread, lasagna. You know what I mean? It flows together. Mm. Dylan, this is how you should go for the pay-per-view. Intercontinental Championship. You go,
Mhm.
oh, World Championship. Oh, you see the it's very subtle. You go, oh, say it with me. Say it with me.
No.
Oh, say it with me.
No.
Come on. You want to say it with me?
No.
You do. I'm gonna tickle your belly. I'll see you on Monday. I'm tickling that belly. I'm gonna do it.
No.
Oh.
That is impressive.
Thank you.
But yeah,
I
so
don't think he stalled out because also, by the way, the entire NWO angle works and is foundationally built off of the work Scott Hall does right now as this weird next generation WWF, the king of the upper mid card, like just like a guy in a vest. He's never going to win the King of the Ring, but he might. You know what I mean? Scott Hall is the perfect, like, he actually could be the world champion, but he's never going to be. But I would watch him have that match. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the distinction? It's a very interesting crevice moment. Scott Hall or The Undertaker could have been the only other person that could have had The Undertaker's career is Scott Hall if Scott Hall drank less and believed more in far right politics.
It's just that when they, and this happens with Diesel too, and Shawn Michaels, where they get over as these cool heels, and then since it's mid '90s and Vince is just booking for kids still, basically for us still, it's like they take all the teeth out of his character. He's just like, I'm a nice guy now. Yeah. Where it's like the whole reason
I'm the bad guy, no swearing.
I'm the bad guy. Sorry, I'm the not so bad guy. Eat your vegetables.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy. If you're bad, I'm bad for you because I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you achieve that in 1995 as like an anti-hero, Cuban expat who's actually just a pure. And how fascinating is it how white Scott Hall is?
It's also so insane that he really kept that voice going for much longer than we're all really comfortable with.
Oh, he just took that voice on. That was just him now.
No. There's a moment where he sort of shifts and tones it down. But there's I remember watching the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD, and Scott Hall is just in his regular voice in either that or an NWO behind the scenes DVD, and it's like, what it's like seeing Superman being like, I did that all with cranes, and you're like, how the fuck?
But yes, so Scott Hall has the great feud with the 1-2-3 Kid.
Oh, the best. Yeah, it's the only time it was like the moment they realized they could do storylines on Raw. They're like, he's no longer the Lightning Kid. He now can count.
He counts. That is who he is now. And the moonsault, which I mean, I never got like the moonsault. He just moonsaults at him and then pins Scott Hall. Transitions the 1-2-3 Kid from a jobber to a regular wrestler. And then they become friends because Scott Hall raises.
And by they we mean Scott Hall and Sean Waltman meet amphetamines.
You think it was amphetamines, or do you think it was just a puff weed? No, that was definitely painkillers.
It was definitely painkillers. Like there's a
They're just trying to commit suicide every
There's
night.
one of the many times where Sean Waltman apparently had to be sent home from Europe because he found some sort of pill that was just caffeine and speed. And all it did was just made him rip, and he just drank water and took it for a whole European tour and then got sent home because he was crazy. Like the stories of the Clique, it's like the Attitude Era was like insane in the ring, and then everyone went back and like had 3 beers. The next generation is like Jimmy Del Rey is being a Jimmy Savile style monster, while Scott Hall and Kevin Nash have just taken 80 somas, the painkiller named after the pill from Brave New World, and are just asleep in a plant. Like, it's like they're
this is the thing.
They're
where
the most catered towards kids, and their world champion is possibly the greatest adulterer in the history of professional wrestling. And the person who wants his spot is cuckolding just a nice man from Virginia named Chris.
This is the thing where it's like it makes it hard knowing a lot about this era of wrestling to take any like documentary about someone's low point seriously, because it's like they'll talk about some rock star who's like, yeah, I took 4 sleeping pills and I tried to commit suicide. It's like, that was the morning for Sean Waltman. Yes. That was like, I need to get down from this coke I just did. Like every single pro wrestler was like actively trying to commit suicide every single night.
Yeah. Absolutely, like the story,
but like that's how they had fun, was trying to commit suicide.
Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Shawn Michaels apparently they had 95 pills, and Scott Hall took like let's say 33, and Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash each took 32. And Scott Hall was way more fucked up, and he was like, I took one more than you. That's why I'm way more fucked up. And they're just like, it is insane. Like
that's crazy.
It is super sad that this guy lost his this guy lost so many of his years to so much substance abuse. That said, game recognizes game. You can take that many pills and not die. You know what you are? You are a hero. Scott Hall, hero.
All you have to do is watch wrestling to realize why you gotta get your shit straight in your 30s, because like literally
100%.
By the time
100%
1958 Scott Hall is born, how old is he in WCW? So by his prime, I guess you would say, in WCW, like the Invasion, he's 38 years old, and he looks great for 38. But like AJ Styles now is like 44 and
It's
still
not fair. AJ Styles is aging like Blanche from the Golden Girls. Like it's just his getting poofier, but his skin is remaining smooth. I don't know what it is about not believing in the vaccine or if the Earth is or believing the Earth is flat, but you just age great. I think it's just because
this is
you
the
have a
thing.
purpose.
These yoga people, the fact that they don't believe in the vaccine. I'm talking about like yoga people who are like
The Woo to Q timeline, or Woo to Q pipeline people. I know what you're talking about.
so here you go. Yes. So the people who are like yoga, oh actually I can't get cancer cuz I stretch a lot, like
Yeah,
those people. The thing is, and the doctors talk about this, is what the time of your life is basically the reason you exercise and eat well and all this shit is because like you want to extend the time in your life that you before you need major medical attention.
yeah,
And like obviously what Scott Hall did through his substance problems is like he shortened that like I need major medical attention to like 43 years old.
yeah.
Versus
Correct.
AJ Styles will probably be majorly okay until he's like 70 when he needs medicine that he doesn't believe in, he'll die.
That's right. You see, AJ Styles is going to be fine until they let him near a live mic, not
But
under
if
the
he liked
umbrella.
medicine, he could probably live till 90.
100%. I have an aunt. This is the thing I say to people. I have an aunt
End
that
of
is
podcast.
I have an aunt. One.
Mhm.
She's in a jar. I have an aunt that's 100 years old, and I like she's from the 20s. She's not
That's
taking
crazy.
care of herself. It's just people started taking care of themselves, and she got some of the leftover residue, like the residue. And I genuinely believe now, with the amount of people that are exercising, we are going to see some really old fuckers. I got to tell you.
I don't know because I would dispute that because I think that one of the things that kept my I guess my grandmother-in-law alive till she was 100 was just moderation. She would just be like, "You have one root vegetable, and then and then you have two olives, and that's it." And like people now, like our generation is just so binge and purge. It'll be like, yeah, this guy tried to have a Whopper when he was 86, so he's dead now."
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, yeah, he was doing something called keto, which we do, which is illegal
Yeah,
now.
someone will try intermittent fasting when they're 72 and just die that
That's
day.
fucking amazing. I just remember talking to someone about. I was at a like sort of an outside COVID gathering.
Thank God that's done, by the way, right?
Oh, get ready for this. This is the best. Is one person was like, "I love the keto diet. It's the best thing that's ever happened." Dylan's walking out. Dylan has just walked out of the podcast.
I hear keto and just one sec. I'm gonna get coffee. One sec.
This is why the podcast is over. So I was at a social gathering event. I want to point out Dylan right there, just in the middle of a fun anecdote. Dylan just walks away. Piece of fucking shit. Piece of fucking garbage. Let's look at what's on his fucking coffee table. We got looks to be a bell, perhaps some sort of an elongated nipple clamp of some description. Box of Kleenex. I'm gonna say that's a box for Apple earbuds. Good pillow distribution on that sofa, I must say. Very impressive. Very impressive stuff. I was mocking you for walking away during my anecdote, and then I was discussing what was on your
Even
coffee
anecdotes
table.
about keto.
That's true.
are
What it
exhausting.
was someone was talking about being on keto, and the other person went, I had to have my gallbladder removed 6 weeks ago because I was on keto. And the first person on keto said, I think that was you and not the diet. And I got to tell you that it's a level of confidence I think about. I was like,
Dude, that's what these diet people do. There was this fiber lady who was like, you need to have like 100 grams of fiber. So the regular recommended is 20, and then some people the fiber diet works. Some people
Yeah.
can handle that amount of fiber. Some people just don't stop shitting. You wake up shitting. You have that much fiber, and you literally shit for a week, even if you stop having fiber. And people would be like, I can't stop shitting. And she'd be like, no, you got to mind over matter.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
people
you
like
gotta-
having colon surgery because they're fucking just falling apart from like their insides are literally coming out. Like I'm pretty sure that was my lungs, and they're like, actually, you just need to believe, and then you will achieve with this diet.
So when I nearly died in that bike accident, and I had like all these bones that needed healing, I asked the doctor, I was like, what should I do for diet? And he's like, your body is in full recovery mode. He's like, eat whatever you want. Like he's like, don't just eat. He's like, don't eat a bunch of crap, but like eat it all. Your body will just be turning it into energy. It's fine. And I was like, okay, great. And then the sheer magnitude of people that were like, I know, I'll tell you the diet you need. It's like, I'm gonna listen to the actual doctor and not you, wide-eyed friend of a friend who found my number.
I read an article that was suggested to me through my web browser. I think
Oh,
I know
yeah.
what I'm talking
There it
about.
is. Like that is the deep end. Let me tell you the two subject matters that will get you everyone's fucking opinion. If you go through, I actually assume also having a kid does this, but getting divorced and being severely injured, the amount of people that are like, you need to eat a lot of plums, and you're like, why? Who told you that? And like, I read a ClickBank article about what happened to Kristen Dunst, and one of the ads on that article said it, and you're like, go fuck yourself.
There's top 10 unbelievable things Hollywood stars like, and all of them are keto.
Yeah,
So Scotland Hall, he's the IC
Glasgow
champion a
boy.
bit. He has that great ladder match with Shawn Michaels.
That he's way more responsible for than just the latter. I hate Ric Flair's like Sean. Ric Flair is such a little mean girl bitch.
Mm.
Ric Flair is the brunette in Mean Girls. He wouldn't even be the leader. He'd be like, "That's right." Like if I saw Ric Flair in an airport, I would go over and cough in his face, just to confuse the shit out of him.
Well, Ric Flair is
Fucking
also
blows.
still pissed, and this is the other thing: is like a lot of what the online community complaining about Ric Flair in the '90s is like because it totally made sense, obviously, to have Razor Ramon, Scott Hall come in and immediately be presented as above Ric Flair because once again. I'm in grade 6 at this point. I'm 11 years old. I just see Ric Flair as this old guy with tits. Like, why is
Yeah.
this old guy with tits still have his shirt off? Why doesn't he just, like, clearly he's so old. Why don't they just fucking have him
WT
be one of the
WCW versus
commentators?
NWO. I kind of realized this. WCW versus NWO is your dad versus your stepdads. That's what it is. And Hulk Hogan, the great betrayal is we always thought Hulk Hogan was our dad. We have learned, if nothing else about that man, Hulk Hogan is a stepdad. And that is what it was. And Ric Flair has never recovered, and he has been bringing deep stepdad energy since the fall of the NWO. Nothing else would explain deep baby blue lavender blazers, large dark sunglasses more than, woo, I fucked your mom.
So obviously, we'll talk about a bit about Scott Hall in WWF towards the end, which basically he stalled out.
I disagree.
His,
There was nothing else for him to do. All of his friends were in the top card.
well, he
wasn't-
wanted. Well, that's what the thing. He wanted to be in the top of the card, and Vince was like, "No, we see you as an upper mid carder," so he just left. And obviously, like they're like, "Hey, you can come in and you're gonna completely be treated like a god,
hang
and
on.
also we
There's-
have guaranteed money for you."
Well, there's one other thing that he said, which is always very interesting, which is actually said to Vince, "I'll stay as the upper mid card. Can I have more money closer to what WCW is offering?"
And
And Vince
yeah,
was
he said
like,
no.
no. And
He's
so
like,
then
yeah.
he,
Anything else would be like Taker. But he said, "Can we move a decimal point?" Which basically means, "Can I fucking go from 200K to 2 million?" And that's a lot to ask. To be fair, when you're like, I mean, good on him for asking.
because I understood
like,
it was Gary.
the
It was
business
move
is
the dec- but
failing.
it was move the
Can I
decimal
have
point
$1 million?
on the guarantee. Because part of the problem was all of their contracts at that time were like, your guarantee is 10 grand, and then at the end
Yeah.
you'll have all of this other cash, and that's so crazy to plan for. Scott Hall's point was, can you move that guarantee decimal point, making it from 20 grand to 200 grand, and redistribute it? And Vince McMahon's like, no, fuck you, and that's my money. Which is, and now, like,
Yeah.
obviously that's how Vince thought about it, but Jesus.
Yeah, because it was. Yeah, I think he said that his guarantee for the year was 10 shows at $150 a show. It was like
Yeah.
that was his guarantee as the fucking Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, the Intercontinental Champion of forever.
And he barrels into WCW. The NWO is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say this. It's Scott Hall in the end. Scott Hall makes the NWO. Scott Hall was the
Mhm.
reason why the NWO was able to be tweeners. He knows how to do that. Kevin Nash could do that with Scott Hall, but Kevin Nash couldn't have been the impetus and the leader. It worked so well of him being the guy because him and Kevin Nash as the outsiders were such like, we're the bullies. Like, it was just so like guys wearing denim jackets just on the fucking hood of a car. They looked like Billy Madison in that scene where he pulls up to the high school and just opens his shirt and sits on the hood of the car. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dylan?
Yeah, man.
Well, the
Honestly,
stroke plays,
one of the coolest things ever in wrestling are the outsiders.
completely. And I will say this before, and I'll say it again. The NWO was a perfect storyline. No problems, no notes.
Honestly, if you want to focus on, which we should just probably focus on the good stuff that the NWO did, Coming in like they did, they always came in with weapons. They didn't really have a theme song for a really long time. Like they came out for the Bash at the Beach without a theme song.
Well, this is the thing is,
And
they were talking about, do they even have gear? What are the gear they're going to be wearing? Like, what are these guys going to do? It was a really great presentation. Police were called to Disney World when they were filming a Nitro because someone saw them supposedly because Kevin Nash picked up Rey Mysterio and threw him into the fucking production truck.
yeah, which was a fucking crazy thing to see, where he just pitched him right into a fucking production. Rey Mysterio helped Kevin Nash a lot.
Rey Mysterio is the unsung hero of modern wrestling.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, he killed that guy. Who knows what that guy was capable of?
But Rey Mysterio, yeah, I mean, if you want to get sidetracked and talk about Rey Mysterio, just like his mask sales alone made Vince McMahon be like, I guess I have to make a 5-5 guy win matches.
Yeah, it's so crazy that Rey Mysterio wasn't a longer term champion. In how much, like, I've loved Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio has been me as a fan longer than I knew what a vagina looked like. Is that true? Definitely longer than I'd seen one. I'd seen
pom-poms from time.
I've seen pom-poms from across the time, but I don't think at the time I had seen Rey. I think I have been a fan of Rey Mysterio Jr. longer than I have seen a pun pun in real life.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's easy for me. Yes, by 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
So Scott Hall, obviously, they win the tag titles. What would you say about the NWO? Really, to really shorten everything and not microanalyze it.
What a good idea that they didn't finish.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
they win the tag titles. Obviously, I think the peak of Scott Hall in WCW is them in a tag team with Nash. Once Nash is like, okay, the power struggle between Hogan and Nash, and like Hogan really like, no, I think I'm just gonna be the champion until I die of natural causes. Like that's when it runs in.
What you also have is you also have Scott Hall. They make his gimmick be he's fucked up, and he's like, that's good because I am. And they're like, oh. Like the other thing is Scott Hall really starts pounding the booze beers. And like he hits an old woman with his car. He keeps having an affair with various members of like Turner WCW office staff. Like gets like the crazy divorce from, and I'm quoting, yeah, well, I met their wife while she was spinning on a pole. Like just like absolute madness, insanity. WCW only ever fires him and takes action against his addictions once he testifies in their copyright lawsuit with WWF, and then finally after like 3 years of him like, Scott Hall's here, he just used Rey Mysterio as a toilet. They finally fire him, and then he enters into what I'd like to call the phase one, where Scott Hall just appears in weird indie shows and is like, I'm the bad boy. And then he joins
that ECW appearance is amazing that he makes. But yeah, he's not the same at all after.
No.
Once he's off of WCW, it's like, hey, do you want to hit your rock bottom 700 different times? Yes, I do.
And in this corner, a guy that you see in a dive bar in the 2000s in the day.
Yeah, I mean, which really sucks because if you just do it based off of just talent, and like Scott Hall, and this is Sting says this, came up with the Crow character.
Yeah, like Scott Hall would have been an amazing booker. Also, Scott Hall had a lot against him because the problem also was this was a time where you had a lot of hard-nosed fucking losers in charge. So when he gets to WWF and he's in a fucking feud with Steve Austin and trying not to drink, they kept pouring real beer on him because Bruce Pritchard is a piece of shit.
Yes, and he was taking the pill that makes you puke immediately, and they're like, just fucking don't be a pussy and drink the real beer. And obviously he relapsed, and then he relapses on the plane ride from hell, or like he's in the plane ride from hell, and he's one of the guys they fire because obviously they can, but they forced him to relapse in the first place.
Yeah, they forced him to relapse. It's still crazy looking back. Like it took that.
That's fucking crazy that Bruce Pritchard admitted that, and he still has a job with a publicly traded company.
Of course he does, because wrestling's insane. Like it's also that weird thing of like that plane ride from hell episode of A Dark Side of the Ring was the first time people were like, oh yeah, Ric Flair's fucking horrific.
It's really vindicating for us that documentary exists, because it's like, yeah, man, if you look at these stories, ignore the fact that the person on the shoot interview is happy to say them, they're fucking terrifying.
Yeah, you know who's not happy about it? The poor flight attendant who was like, I wonder if he's large men.
Old guy's dick.
Yeah, just seeing like, oh my god,
Everyone is around you is 6'8", and the shortest, like oldest guy who you think would be like paternal and nurturing took his dick out and looked you in a closed space and looked you in the eyes.
I guarantee this. I want to say this to Ric Flair. If I see you in public, I'm going to hit you with a car, and you'll never know it's me.
You don't need to hit him with a car. You can just hit him with the wind. He's done.
No, I want to hit him with a car. I want to take him out.
Okay.
I want to
pick up a car and fuck him up with it.
Yeah.
But Hall wins the TV title.
Oh boy, does he!
Honestly, the last feud he has, when it's like the last days of Scott Hall, and I think the last match he has in WCW is like a Fatal 4-Way.
No, there's
the last promo he gives.
You're
it's
missing
like
a whole section after that, but go ahead.
The last promo he gives is like, man, he's just so fucking. He just really hits with the audience and everybody on a level where it's like Nash doesn't hit on that level. Like, he's so smart. The other thing Scott Hall did that really I thought was amazing was he believed in jobbing to jobbers and that you just beat them up afterwards, and he really helped Chris Jericho along when Chris Jericho was just started out and he was a jobber. He loses to Scott Hall, then Scott Hall beats the shit out of him afterwards, like really angrily, obviously, but that helped Chris Jericho. Like, he beat Scott Hall. Like, he can go back in the same position on WCW Saturday Night where he's Lionheart Chris Jericho, I have no character, man, but be like, I fucking did beat Scott Hall, and use that as this is the potential he showed to then become Lionheart Chris Jericho, the comedy heel, and that shoots him off. You know what I mean? Like,
Dylan, you're finally talking sense. And that is why I'm wearing no trousers. You're 100% correct. Scott Hall, if it not for
like,
the
it makes my
Demon
character
Run,
interesting. And then if you do that once, like when he lost 1, 2, 3 Kid, every single time he faces a jobber from now on, there's tension because it's like, is this guy going to lose?
This is the thing. Scott Hall, if it weren't for his love of drinking and for some bad doctors' shoddy work, he probably would have made a really great booker at some point. Like, he would have been an excellent addition to.
Yeah.
Like, the Ruthless Aggression era might not have been so filled with people fucking mannequins.
Well, yeah, that's what Jim Ross basically says on his podcast, is Scott Hall would be like an editor where it's like he'd pay Scott Hall to watch his television and then just basically be like, what was too long, what characters need what,
Yeah.
da-da-da-da. Anyway, check this out, you bitch pussy.
Really
Scott Hall,
sad.
this is the real, and it's an 8-year, whoopsie-doopsie. He goes into WWE. Obviously, we know this at this point, but Hogan Austin is proposed. It doesn't really work out. Hall does the job to Austin. Austin's really wary of the whole thing. He doesn't really trust those guys.
It's a really weird time, but what it is it's slightly two generations. Steve Austin is the big dog of this next wave, and he was probably like, he's not that close with Hogan. He actually is very close with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Like, they were all boys in WCW. So it's a weird situation, but yeah, I think it was also Steve Austin was just too famous, was losing his mind. Like, this is the worst Steve Austin is as a human in this time period.
Well, also, like, the entirety of that Attitude Era is built upon people from WCW other than Triple H who left and were like, fuck those guys.
Yeah, that's a great, and now they're back, and it's kind of like, wait, we're gonna put these guys over. It's a very odd. It was a
like,
real.
They know their tricks. Where it's like, hey man, it's just good. It's just good
now,
for business. Bud? If I I'm just checking my phone. I got a buzz on my phone. It's just good for business if we win. Like, they know how like charming these guys can be, so everyone is so guarded that they're like, yeah, I'll job to you. Is like, but what's gonna happen after the match? That's it. I'll just job to you. Yeah, okay, buddy. Oh, nice.
What was it? Is a text message from me?
Oh, it's nothing. It's just a comedian reaching out to me for gigs in London, and then I have to explain that I haven't lived there for almost a decade.
I haven't been almost a decade. You haven't lived there in 4 years, 5 years. Yeah,
that's
insane.
Half a decade. Anyway,
I mean,
Scotland.
let me ask you this:
Scootish Hall. Go for it.
There's nothing better than, can you help me with gigs in London? I don't live in London anymore. Can I live? I live in LA. Can you help me with gigs in LA? Because I'm starting to get that one, and I got to tell you, hats off, everybody.
Just don't do gigs. Just enjoy your time. Just don't. You're not gonna. 2 gigs aren't gonna change your life. Anyway, it's not the 80s. So just make 9 TikToks a fucking second. Anyway, I'm editing all this. Then he really goes to his low point, which is TNA. Immediately
yeah.
after, I didn't
King's
realize
Wrestling,
how
baby.
quickly he's in TNA after that NWO thing. But 2002.
Yeah, he's right there. Kings of Wrestling, baby. We're doing Victory Road. Jeff Jarrett is the oh no, that's a little bit later, but yeah, he's in and out of TNA so quickly. Like it's crazy. It's crazy how big TNA actually was looking back. Like it's like, oh my God, like it was just that no one believed in it. So it was kind of weird. It felt much smaller, but it was the alternative for the better part of 2 decades.
Dude, this is perfect. He came back in 2004 along with Kevin Nash, and the first match he has is Scott Hall beats AJ Styles at Turning Point. Like that's TNA in a nutshell. Some dude came back. He's so out of it that his gut hangs over his shorts now, even though he's jacked, and he looks like shit. Why don't we put him over the face of our company? Like how many times did this would be like if people
Is the most
compare.
understanding man. Go ahead.
But people compare WCW and TNA, but WCW would never be like, "Oh, hey, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's coming and we need to heat him up by having him beat Lex Luger and Sting at the same time." Like even WCW wasn't that fucking stupid.
I mean,
Who did Sting lose to really, other than like Hogan?
and he didn't really ever lose to Hogan, weirdly.
Yeah. So this is what I mean, like no one is treated as bad. No top star of a company is ever treated as bad as AJ Styles in TNA.
That's so fun. Yeah, and also, by the way, not only no star is treated as bad as AJ Styles in TNA, but also no star continues to rise. Like no star was essentially shackled to the ground.
Crazy.
More time, like it's like he's about to be something. Jeff Jarrett just re-debuted with the My World song, and he made the entire crowd listen to every lyric. No. You didn't enjoy that song. We're playing it again.
Then the TNA does the best thing in the world, which is they have a 3-hour episode of Monday Night Impact when they were up against Raw. What do they do on their first episode?
I assume Scott Hall murders AJ Styles' family.
Scott Hall and Sean Maltman reunite, return to TNA, and form the band with Kevin Nash, because baby, fucking this the one night wars against so we're fucking got the NWO. They're all 85. Fucking
we're getting the band. I want to get a band T-shirt. By the way, why don't we have TNA
insulin
from the band
on a pole
t-shirt?
match? The loser will actually die of diabetes.
And let me
in
ask
the
you this,
ring.
Dylan, look at me right in the face. Who was the band's special backstage interviewer?
Scared woman.
Better, and you're so close. It was Bubba the Love Sponge. This was the time period.
Oh yeah, and then they fucking said Bubba Army. They had shirts that said Bubba Army on them.
Yeah, because
yeah.
Bubba the Love Sponge's fans is the Bubba Army. Have I thought about occasionally buying you a Bubba the Love Sponge Bubba Army T-shirt? Yes, but they are, and I hope you're not surprised, kind of expensive.
Yeah, this is it. Sorry, continue. Sacrifice 2010. It's so good. Hall and Nash beat Inc. Jesse Neal and Shannon Moore. Then they follow that up by beating Matt Morgan, who was doing like a Venom gimmick, and that was Scott Hall never lost the TNA tag titles. That was it.
Scott Hall's the Goldberg of TNA.
They didn't even bring him in to just get pinned.
Really?
He was just
Is that
never
true?
lose. Yeah, he never lost. They never lost tag title.
It's got to be great being Scott Hall. Like, yeah, he had crippling addictions, but like
He's dead now, but yes.
He's so many times undefeated, and he probably has like 80 victories over Abyss.
He looks fucking tragic. Like it's crazy how bad he looks.
Oh my God, him and TNA, he looked like an old Alzheimer's victim. Like just
he's just like a fucking old, and this is like no whatever his like during that point I'd kill to look like him now, but like he looks like an old drunk man.
Dylan, you look great. Before we started
you.
recording, you made me watch you do 10 burpees fully naked, but you said But you said, you were able to time it so you'd cover your junk on the bounce because you're like, my
Because
virtue,
I got
my
such good
virtue.
vert.
You do have the excellent vert. Everyone has been commenting on your vert. Me, your wife, your son. I communicate with your son. We text.
Scott Hall, other than that, occasionally comes back because Triple H helps run the company. Then, of course, he died in March of this year. And
Killed by Diamond Dallas Page. I did not watch that
killed by
documentary.
life
yes.
itself.
Yeah, he was killed by a doctor going, you just told me a story of what you did in a hotel room, and I'm going to seek revenge for those poor, poor, poor maids.
I mean, great. Like, honestly, later in life, made up for a lot of stuff. He reconnects with his son. All this stuff that is really, really heartwarming. You can watch Diamond Dallas Page documentary on basically saving Scott Hall's life. DDP, longtime friend of Scott Hall, and of course, like, was his manager when he was the Diamond Stud in WCW. Scott Hall also suggested that DDP and Savage and Scott Hall did a lot for Diamond Dallas Page, getting him over as the one of the WCW guys, one of the two WCW guys that actually broke through during the NWO angle were Page and Goldberg, and one of those was definitely with Scott Hall and Macho Man's help. So
150,000%. The other thing,
he also made 1, 2, 3 Kids career. Like, let's not forget this: is that like people weren't that size who were successful, and he made that happen by being able to job to him. Go for it.
His U shoot is fun and joyous and like actually not like, you watch some of those and you're like, ugh, and you watch his and you're like, this seems like a fine guy, and I'm really sorry that he had his troubles with alcohol. It's a really fun watch. It's a really nice like oh, that's very funny. He has like a humor and a joy to him that Kevin Nash and Sean Waltman kind of don't. So he's kind of able to be like, what am I like? You know what I mean? Also, he's clearly, and this is purely me speculating, I think he's a little done with Shawn Michaels' religious rap.
Well, he's dead now, so he can't. He's not anything.
Yeah, he's in heaven, being like, "Hello, God."
Sean was right.
I saw what Sean did.
They really
in the
hate
90s.
gay people up here, Sean.
Yeah, like holy shit. Yeah, wow.
I did not think.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. If I die and it turns out it's Scientology heaven, I'm gonna be like, I mean, they told us. They really presented it like this was the right one, and fuck. Okay.
I hope it's one of the fucking sick ones, like it's just fucking ancient Greece, and I was like, fuck, I didn't commit enough war. I'm guessing.
Oh my god! Imagine if it's just yeah, exactly. It's just we gotta. Where's your fucking pennies? Are you fucking kidding me? It's really this? And he's like, I'm like, yeah. And I was like, well, none of us have fucking pennies. And he's like, yeah. I mean, I don't know
name
what to tell you.
one handicapped person you threw into a pit of fire. None. You're going to Hades.
I mean, I just have to
It's
correct
Spartan
you.
law up here.
It's the underworld ruled by Hades.
Okay, sorry.
It would be like if America was called "You're going to Joe Biden."
Oh yeah, because Joe Biden is hell.
That's right. Thank you. You get it.
Cat Williams, Joe Biden bit, very funny. So here's the other thing, John. Is what's your favorite thing about Scott Hall? What's the worst thing about Scott Hall?
Worst thing is that he died. Best thing is that he lived.
Whoa.
I'm going to say this. Best thing about Scott Hall is that he changed what his ring attire looked like, but it was always the same consistently from Razor Ramon forward, and I love that.
Oh, yeah. He had
Worst
fucking...
thing.
Oh, yeah.
He had the drip, both literally
Dude,
and
that fucking... Those Outsiders... That Outsiders gear is so nice.
Fucking yeah, babe. The Outsiders, essentially what
yeah.
it was, just the red and black for no reason, so they stood out from the black and white. Oh, give it to me all day. Dylan.
They're so fucking cool. There's no like his alcoholism really did rob us of like one of the more fun world champions.
Does
where
anyone
it's like
else
I
feel
guarantee
like
it's exactly like
Bill
when
Watts'
Nate Diaz
responsibility? Like he opened a beer in front of him and went, "Scott, you'll take my job away from me."
Who benefited the most from Scott Hall's alcoholism, you think? I think Kevin Nash did.
Kevin Nash. It was Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash did. I mean, I don't want to. I always feel bad. I don't know why I feel bad in that moment because I was like, what if Kevin Nash hears this after his friend and son died in the same year? And I'm like, I don't think he's going to listen to this. And also, that guy made a podcast the day his son died, so I think he has a weird relationship with grief.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely Nash because Hall is just Nash but more versatile because like especially in that era, You can have him be the. It sounds weird, but he's a 6'6", 6'7" guy, but you can have him be the chicken shit heel because there were so many dudes that were huge, and you can also. He's just way more versatile. Like he showed it. He showed that even if all those old wrestlers think he's garbage, you can at least put a workhorse in the ring with him, and he can have a great match, which is all you need for that time. Now, was he pretty much built? This is the other thing I will say about Scott Hall. Was he built even in his more successful reincarnation as Scarface Scott Hall to just do backstage promos in the 90s style? 100%. Because you can't have a guy talking that slowly for 10 minutes.
I mean, he adapted it pretty well for WC. Hey, yo, survey time.
But still, that's like, he adapted it, yes, but like he was never in the position where it's like,
Admit I'm right. Just do it.
do your huge fucking monologue.
He was. These monologues were about ratings, always. He was
You went,
obsessed.
hey, yo, we got the ratings, da, 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 da. And then he would just pass it to Nash, who then would lean on the rope, and they were all very bored.
Oh,
The NWO did look extremely bored. And that's why Hogan stayed on top, where it's like someone has to have some fucking energy performing for this goddamn camera. You
they
can't
weren't
just have
bored. They were
six guys
drunk. Like,
leading.
apparently what it was Hogan had beer in his rider, so he had a 2-4 of fucking Coorsies on
That's
ice
sick.
in his trailer. And it was basically a race between...
How good are steroids that you can drink a full 2-4 of beer and still be cut at fucking
They are
in your
awesome.
40s?
Like,
I don't think anyone really thinks about how fucking crazy you have 4 beers in your 37. You feel it for months. You're
No
just
one's
fat
talking-
for months, and then
No
he
one-
is like on these beautiful needles that make him fucking.
No one is talking about what the societal impact with steroids being the most popular street drug, which is
Yeah.
it has been true. Like,
It's cool.
it is so cool. Do you know how jacked the fucking drugged out crazies are going to be in 2 years?
Dude, this is the other thing where it's like drugs. Who knew that like just everyone being high, and I don't mean on anything, just full stop high, like doing drugs that change your consciousness was way better for you than people just exercising. No. I think there should be one guy who rules this whole fucking planet. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Versus like someone smoking something or injecting is like I couldn't care less what is happening around me. I'm so fucking good right now.
Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, let me tell you how you're supposed to be reasonable in society. You have eight wines at a business dinner. Don't smoke a little joint before you go to bed, or you'll have compassion for all that lives.
So fucking shut the fuck up, everybody. Obviously, this episode was ordered by John. Leave silence so I can edit this.
Of course. Oh, I'm sorry. And thank you so
Jason.
much for your... Oh,
Oh God,
oh, we fucked it.
you fucked it up. One sec. Jason, thank you so much for your $25 donation, and we'll be doing Kurt Hennig after this. We are going to fulfill all of our Patreon requests. So right now we have, I'm going to read them off, so please listen to this fucking part of the show. Right now we have, John, I need more time to find this guy's fucking list, because my
bam.
guy's garbage. One sec.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about something that not enough people are talking about, which is AEW needs to update their sets and the look of their television show. It's been 3 years, and I think it's time for them to signal that the beginning of the end has begun, and they need to move on to, much like WCW did, they need to change their logo, and then they need to build a giant set of that logo that is really bad, and the wrestlers walk out from there. That's what I'm looking for. Make it happen. TK, make it happen. Also, the cattiness of AEW Twitter between the wrestlers, gentlemen, keep it up. I'm loving every minute of it.
So these are the things we have left. We have Larry Canner Jr. with Tara Valkyrie. We have John Cooper with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Eric with Savio Vega. And Andrew McCown with Bray Wyatt. So those are the episodes we have left to record. Anyone else, just reach out because we are not doing admin anymore. We got one foot out the fucking door, motherfuckers.
Guys, the Wrestle Review Towers is abandoned. Dylan has sold it off. So,
Yeah.
it is now a Spirit Halloween store.
I've stolen all the pens. John stole all the erasers. We not realize that those were our pens and erasers. Why
Yes,
do we have no erasers with no pencils? Because we're dumb.
As it turns out, Dylan and I have both Ponzi schemed the wrestler review, and we do not know how to do that. So we're just quietly shutting down this fun business. That said, I would like to once again thank everyone who's reached out to say they enjoyed the show. It's really been fun and nice and great. And we will be going out with a bang, a sex bang. Dylan and I are going to end the program by full fucking.
We will be in separate locations, so I'll find a guy that looks like John. John will find a guy that looks like me, and we'll fuck
Technically,
them,
the
and
last
they won't
episode-
be.
That's
they'll be
not
passed
true.
out.
The last episode,
We're
they
in Jimmy
hear,
Del Rey with them. What?
They here will be we will.
Oh yes,
record
we'll be
together.
live.
We will together. But the last actual episode, because of how timings have worked out, we will be separate more than likely.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Go fuck
Sucky,
yourselves.
Fuck
Suck,
time.
fuck, fuck.